I'm going to call this meeting of the Denton County Transportation Authority Board of Directors regular meeting to order. We do have a quorum. Let's see, need to go ahead and start off with today's invocation, and Pat has graciously volunteered or been voluntold. I can never tell which.
Volunteer.
Thank you, sir.
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this wonderful day, for the freshness of spring and the freshness of this wonderful organization, the Denton County Transportation Authority, for the leaders of this board, for the staff, for the energy and enthusiasm that they bring to the mission of moving people across Denton County every day. I pray for wisdom and discernment in the decisions we make today, and just pray that you'll continue to help us to lead well, to serve our citizens well, and that keep everyone safe as we travel the roads and railways of Denton County. It's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the pledges. First, to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas pledge, please. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. All right. Mr. Christina, I think we have a few introductions, maybe some recognition.
Yes, sir. If you don't mind, I'd like to go to the front and do some staff recognition. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the board. It's a privilege to be able to work alongside the men and women of the Denton County Transportation Authority every day, but there are some days where that really gets shown to a level that goes above and beyond. And I want to recognize a handful of folks that did some extraordinary things during the winter weather event that we had earlier in February. So I'll take them in two batches. First, if I could have Mr. Bobby Yard, Mr. Melvin Barkley, Mr. Eric Hill Rivera come into the boardroom, please. Let's do this one next. So Mr. Barkley is our fleet manager on the bus operation. Melvin, right?
That's Bobby.
Oh, I'm sorry, Bobby. Melvin is our bus operations director. Bobby is our fleet and facilities manager. Eric is our training instructor. And these three gentlemen are representing 20 some odd other people who are working nearly 24/7 throughout the winter weather in order to keep the bus fleet moving, the Go Zone fleet moving. And so we just want to say thank you to them. The impact of these trips, more than almost 3,000 Go Zone trips with 0 injuries or collisions, 640 passengers on the A train with 98% average on-time performance, 109 life-sustaining trips. There was a Monday of the storm, we didn't run any service except for those life-saving trips. And Ms. Randy Trantham called every one of those people during the course of that storm to make sure that their trips were scheduled day to day. On the Connect and UNT side, more than 20,000 fixed route passengers and 608 customer support calls. And in terms of exposure to the weather and the clearing of the ice and snow and all that sort of stuff, it's an outdoor sport, transportation is, and these three folks and their teams represent that very well. And so we want to say thank you to them for that. So thank you, Melvin, Bobby, and Eric. And so also our DCTA coin. Thank you all very much for your service. Thank you.
No, it didn't happen.
All right, thank you. Next, if I could have Mr. John Johnson come to the front, please. So there's a story in the Gospel of Luke about the Good Samaritan. The story is a man on the side of the road, injured, not in great shape. The society people walk right by the man, but one Samaritan sees the man, has pity on him, puts him up in an inn for 2 days and says, I'll pay the bills until he gets better. So here we go. On Tuesday, January the 20th, John was transporting an unhoused individual with a wheelchair from a hotel to 2 different shelters that denied him due to capacity. The passenger told John it was okay to leave them and they would find a picnic table to sleep on during the night. John did not feel comfortable leaving them without exploring other options, so he took time to call the City of Denton non-emergency line to locate an alternative resource, and ultimately John decided to transport the passenger back to the hotel and personally paid for 2 nights to ensure the passenger had a place to stay. John's been driving for GoZone for 5 years. I'm talking to him in the lobby. He says, I've seen kids graduate from high school. I've seen kids graduate from Texas Women's University. He's doing his job, and he says, my van is a ministry. It's amazing. We're a data-driven organization. We measure KPIs, we measure cost of service, all that sort of stuff. We can't measure these kinds of things. And so it's very appropriate for us to say thank you very much for what you're doing. And we're so grateful. This is all the best DCTA swag we could find.
Thank you, thank you. I just want to thank the Lord for give him the grace and glory. Because at one point in time in my life, I didn't love myself. And it took different people to show me love, that I was worthy of love. And it took the Lord to show me I can pass that love on. And the lady that I helped, I couldn't leave her there because I saw my mom. So I thank God that I did it. And for y'all to know, I recently picked her up again. She has an apartment. She's doing better. So between the help of God, this community, and my job, that's one more person that's not on the street. And I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I think it's important that those of us in public service understand that, not everything's a KPI. Sometimes it's just doing public good. And I think that's, we lose that in the political arguments of the day, that sometimes things are for the good, not for the profit. With that, we're going to go into public comments. This agenda item provides an opportunity for citizens to address the board of directors on any agenda items or other matters relating to DCTA. Each speaker will be given a total of 3 minutes to address any items. Anyone wishing to speak shall be courteous and cordial. Speakers making personal, impertinent, profane, or slanderous remarks may be removed from the meeting. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, clapping, and similar demonstrations will not be permitted. Citizens that are not able to participate in person can email us, and those details are in the notes. We are not permitted by state law to take action on any subject raised by a speaker during the public comments. However, the directors may have the item placed on a future agenda for action. We could refer that to DCTA administration for further study, or briefly state existing DCTA policy, or provide a brief statement of factual information in response to the inquiry. With that, Liam Game Wakefield has comments regarding, I think it's bus routes. Thank you, sir.
New setup. How do
You're good. It's green light.
and I'll just okay. Hello, my name is Liam Gone Wakefield. I'm a Denton resident. Just coming to speak on the scenario. I was here last month. The scenarios about choosing for the bus routes. I support. Granted, not all the data's in, but from what I've seen, I support scenario 5 with the modified Discovery Park and Colorado Express, because I think those are very important, to the network, because they add east-west connection and important connections to north-south connection on the west side of town, and then an important connection to the new Route 2 and the mall, and also a very dense community below I-35 around McMath Middle School, that area, because that is a hugely dense neighborhood, and I know people personally that would use a bus route there. I yield the remainder of my time.
Thanks. Thank you, sir. Before we jump into consent agenda, I do want to just let everybody know Judge Eads has got a medical appointment that he has made it so he cannot run today's meeting, but he wanted to let everybody know that he's watching. So with that, we'll go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda items will be approved all in one motion unless there is any request to remove something from the agenda. So with that, I have items 1 through 4 on the consent agenda, and I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes unanimously. Regular agenda. Item 1, discuss and consider acceptance of the fiscal year 2025 financial audit. And we have Lucretia Williams, our Senior Manager of Accounting, Keith Szymanski, our partner from Plant Moran, and Amy Titer, sorry about that, Amy, our manager from Plant Moran as well.
Good morning, Vice Chair and members of the board. I am pleased to be here with you today along with partner Mr. Keith Szymanski and manager Amy Titer from the audit firm Plant Moran to present and talk to you about the results of our FY25 audit. Accompanying this item are 3 particular exhibits that were included in your packet. The first one is the ACFR, the audited financial statement. The second is the report of the single audit. And the third item is Plant Moran's report to the board as a result of the audit work. The items are being presented in draft form, or I would like to say near final form. And it's consistent with our past practice. We do allow the board to review and provide any comments as needed following this meeting. The auditors will work with our finance team to finalize the audit and taking the necessary steps to make sure that the near final document is finalized. And to that, Keith and Amy, if you're there, I'll turn it over to you to present the results and any additional items that you wanted to talk in respect to the FY25 audit.
Thank you, Lakeisha. This is Keith. Good morning, everyone. Great to be with you. Rather than going through each of the deliverables in any detail, Amy and I have prepared a short summary to go over the results, the highlights of the results. So starting with the first slide, this is a culmination of a nearly 8-month process in which we gather data from DCTA, comb through it, prepared for our audit. We performed the bulk of our audit procedures in early January and are here going over the near final results with you today. Happy to say that despite some challenges within the finance department, including turnover in the CFO position and the implementation of a new ERP system, the audit went very smoothly and we have positive results both in terms of the audit process itself and financial results. With that, I will turn it over to Amy to cover the financial results.
Thanks, Keith. This slide just reiterates what Lakeisha already presented to you all as what our deliverables are that we'll be going through today. So moving to the next slide, I'll start with going over the independent auditor's report, which is within the financial report. So as Lakeisha mentioned, currently this is in draft form, hoping to finalize shortly after this meeting with no real changes from the draft form presented to you all today. We are happy to say that DCTA did receive an unmodified opinion this year, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. Moving to the next slide, I'll cover just a few financial highlights, starting with the income statement. It was another good year for DCTA with $3.4 million added to net position. The authority's largest source of revenue, as I'm sure you all are aware, is sales tax revenue. This increased just under 2% from last year, coming in at about $41 million. Operating revenue, which consists of passenger revenue and contract services, this was down slightly about $1 million or 20%, but this was offset partially by your grant revenue, which is another major source of revenue for DCTA, which increased about 15% this year. Lastly, operating expenses, those were up just slightly, 9%, coming in at just under $63 million. Going to the next slide, I'll cover the balance sheet. So again, happy to report that DCTA is maintaining its strong balance sheet. $131 million of unrestricted cash and investments, $14 million of long-term debt, including DCTA's easement obligation, and then a total net position of $396 million. Now you'll see within the financial report that net position is broken out into 3 categories. This is important to note because the largest category here of 255 million, this has already been spent in the form of buses, rail equipment, etc., and is no longer available for operations. You do have a small portion, relatively, of 700,000 that's restricted for your net pension asset, so that can only be spent on pension benefits. And then the residual of that 141 million, that's unrestricted and can be utilized to be spent on future operations. Next, I'll turn it over to Keith to cover the last two deliverables.
Next deliverable to cover is the end of audit letter addressed to the board. It includes two sections. Section 1 are required communications under the auditing standards, and I'm happy to say there really are no exceptions that we need to bring to your attention. The audit went very smoothly and according to plan. Section 2 includes one minor recommendation related to signing off on investment reconciliations, just so there's a paper trail that those did indeed take place on a quarterly basis. And besides that, we have some generic items that are not necessarily specific to DCTA, but we thought might be of value and information to the board and to management. On the next slide, we summarize the third deliverable, the single audit report. The single audit is required now for any entity that spends more than $1 million of federal revenue, which certainly is the case for the authority each year. Federal spending for fiscal year 2025 was $14.2 million. And our report includes 3 independent auditors' reports, one on the schedule of expenditures of federal awards, one on the report on internal control over financial reporting, and one on compliance with the major programs. And I'm happy to say we had no findings related to either the financial reporting or the compliance with federal programs. So it was indeed a very clean audit. Then some final commentary. I mentioned the ERP conversion took place mid-year in fiscal year 2025. I really want to acknowledge the great work that everyone throughout the organization did in preparing and executing their plan for this new system. It's not uncommon that once we come in to do it with the first audit after an ERP conversion, that there are difficulties getting us as the independent auditors the information that we need or the type of reports that are necessary for the audit. But we saw no such hiccups this year. DCTA was as ready as ever and very well prepared for the audit. So that, by all accounts, as best as we could tell, was indicative of a very smooth ERP conversion, which is unfortunately not always the case, but again, a credit to DCTA for the great work that they did this past year. As part of the audit process, we reviewed the quarterly investment reports and noted no errors or exceptions. We did also want to point out that the authority has been very responsive to previous findings. There were 2 such findings that we discussed with you in our report last year, and both of those were remediated, and we had no such findings this year. We are essentially done with the audit of the financial statements, and in the coming weeks and couple months, we will perform our agreed upon procedures over the National Transit Database information that's submitted to the federal government. We'll issue that report as soon as possible. And lastly, we want to thank the entire finance department as well as many others throughout the authority that assisted us with the audit. We have no shortage of questions and requests and follow-up questions that take place, not just during those couple weeks in January, but before and after that as well. We appreciate everyone's professionalism and assistance, particularly those in the finance department, and Lakeisha more than anyone, who really stepped up after the CFO's departure towards the end of the year and helped to make sure that this audit went very smoothly. So again, can't say enough how well the process went and how great it is for us to work with the authority, and we appreciate your business and working with you. With that, I will pause to see if there are any further comments or questions.
Okay.
I
no
don't see
comments.
any.
Okay. So Keith and Amy, thank you both so much for joining us today, and I appreciate your time presenting the audit to the board. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So to reiterate on what a couple of things that Keith had mentioned was regarding the audit and how we plan to make sure this year was a successful audit. So back in August, I presented a plan that the finance team put in place. And I'm not going to go through each one in detail, but we did take this plan and we executed to make sure this year was a successful audit. So for that, I do thank the finance team as a whole for sticking by me and making sure we did what we were supposed to do and make sure everything went according to plan. So for that, staff recommends the board accept the FY 25 fiscal year 25 financial audit.
All right. Board, any questions, comments, or if none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the audit presented by staff in Plant One.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you so much. Always love those clean bills of health.
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chair, just to let me lend my thanks to Lakeisha and the entire finance team, and Mr. Leininger through the interim process to get us to this point. Y'all did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good work. Item 2 in the regular agenda, discuss and consider approval of monthly financial statements for December 31st, 2025, quarterly grants report for the period ended December 31st, 2025, and receive an update regarding finance operations. Our presenters, Derek Sibley, our VP of Finance, Jane Filler. I know, if I read it, I blow it. Jane Filarowitz, our Senior Manager of Budget and Grants, and Lakeisha Williams, our Senior Manager of Accounting.
Okay, well, I'll stay up here since I am going first. So the staff recommends the board approve the monthly financial statements for December 31st, 2025, and the grants report for the period ended in December 31st, 2025. So starting off with the revenues for the first quarter, sales tax revenue continues to perform ahead of budget through December of 2025. Our federal state grants operating performing ahead of budget as well due to the reimbursement of the purchase transportation expenditures. Contract services, the variance is due to reclassing the City of Frisco revenue to operating grants beginning of quarter 2. So second quarter, you'll see a slight difference between operating and the contract service revenue. And in the quarter 2, it'll also include the November and December revenue. Passenger revenue is slightly behind year-to-date budget, and revenue is recorded a month in arrears. So you won't see January is actually, the December payment was paid in January, so we're 1 month behind. And the same goes for purchase transportation, which is slightly under budget due to the timing of the contract billing. Outsourced services and charges is up as well. It includes projects from the IT department and planning and development, which some have commenced. The insurance expenditure reflects a large payment of this annual premium, which occurs at the beginning of the fiscal year to pay all non-rail coverage. And leases and rentals are on target with the budget revisions due to the expansion of our suite next door. So those are our revenues and expenditures. Does anyone have any questions on those? Okay.
Before I start on the investment piece of this, I just want to reiterate everything that Paul stated, the auditor stated, you know, in regard to Lakeisha and her work in the audit process and then the whole finance team as a whole. I tell people all the time, you know, the audit is, you know, yes, it takes place in a couple of months, 2-3 months of the year, but it is the work that takes place every single day that results in a good result at the end of the day. So super proud of Lakeisha for taking this on and doing a fabulous job with that. So I want to talk about the investment report for the end of December 31st, put together by Hilltop Securities, starting first of all with the portfolio summary. You can see that our book value at the end of December was 130,808,000, which is pretty much flat from what it was at the end of September, where it was 130,840,000. Market value did increase from 130,885,000 to it actually decreased a little bit from 130,885,000 to 130,883,000, but overall our net unrestricted gain increased from 45,000 to 75,000. So that's a good item there. Turning to the portfolio characteristics there on the right, the yield to maturity decreased slightly from 4.125 to 3.795, which is pretty consistent with the market that we're living in right now as far as the rates and what the Fed is doing with those rates. And then the days to final maturity also extended from 97 to 140, which reflected some reinvestment activity during the month of December. And if we look at the portfolio allocations overall, a majority of our investments are in our local government investment pools, which comprise about 73% of our portfolio. This is our Techstar account. It provides our daily liquidity with some good yield along the way in regard to the rate environment that we're in right now. Our U.S. government securities make up about 10% of our portfolio. Agency callable bonds represent about 9%. And then our direct agency is 6%. And then our bank deposits, just over 1% of our total portfolio. So from a credit risk quality perspective, our portfolio is in great shape. As you see, 73% of our investment is AAA, which that is our investment pools. And then 25% of it is in AA, which is our agency and our government securities. So moving on to the next slide, looking at our maturity distribution. In our maturities, 75% of that matures overnight, which means that is our investment pools. It's maturing every single night. This is primarily our investment pools, which gives us immediate access to those funds every day for operating purposes. 4 million of that matures in 3 to 6 month window. 5 million of that falls in the 9 to 12 month window. 16.3 million matures in the $1 to $2 million window, or 1 to 2 year window. And then 7.9 extends out to the 2 to 3 year window. And then finally, the book value, security distribution, Techstar. Again, our investment pool is yielding about 3.825%. Our agency callable securities yielding 3.704. Direct agency bonds 3.63. Our U.S. government securities carry our highest yield at 4.143, which is kind of consistent with the long maturities or longer maturities. And then our bank deposits coming in at a whopping 23 basis points. And that is, we just have funds there for our operating. We don't hold it there for any length of time. So overall, we're in a good position. We're highly liquid, conservative, and generating a solid income considering the current rate environment. So I'm happy to answer any questions if you might have any.
I don't hear any questions.
And I will turn it over to Jane for the grants.
Good morning, Chair, Board, and guests. My name is Jane Florence. I'm the Senior Manager of Budget and Grants. And today I'll go over Q1 grant revenue with you and break down how we did. So 3.9 million is our total. That's made up of 2.3 million. That's from operating assistance for bus, GO Zone access, as well as bus preventative maintenance. Then we have 1 million for rail preventive maintenance. That's made up of rail car miles and rail facility maintenance within the rail department. 252,000 under the bus and facilities grant is for the Swiftly software, the annual subscription and the annual passenger counters that we have there. And then 43,000 is the Collin County Rides program for the mobility manager. And then we have 229,000. That's for our Vanpool program. And then the other funding that you see there, the CMAQ will be used for the TOD. And then the CRISI will be used for A-train enhancements. In addition to these grants that you see here, we also have a grant that is pending for 2.2 million for fleet purchases for bus. And we have 4 other grants that we could execute when we're ready for those funds. And then this week, we also submitted for the build grant with U.S. Department of Transportation. We are requesting $25 million, and that will be used for our A-train enhancements. And we will know in June if we have been awarded that grant funding. Any questions related to grant revenue? Thank you.
I just wanted to take a few minutes I've been with the agency for 60 days and just kind of give you a little review as to what my areas of focus have been since being here. Then kind of what you can kind of expect from me in the coming months. First of all, I just want to say it has been a great entry into the agency. I have really enjoyed getting to work with the leadership and just everybody throughout the agency and excited for the future. I really started, trying to build the relationships with the finance and executive leadership teams. I think in order for us to move things forward, that is the basis of building any kind of trust, any kind of working relationship. And so, I really focused on building relationships with the finance staff and executive leadership team and really have had the opportunity to meet people across the agency as well. I've been looking at and assessing the finance processes and procedures and how we do things within the agency. Every organization is different how they do things. And so I have my perspective in the way that I've done things in my career, but I wanted to have a review as to how we do things here at DCTA. I don't feel like you can come in and start making changes without, understanding the landscape that you're working in. And so I've been doing that, been looking at some finance policies, internal controls, which really govern kind of the way we work. So we want to make sure that we have our finance policies and all of our internal controls in place. And that's an ongoing process, something that we will continue to look at in the coming months as well. The Tyler ERP system that was converted to mid-year, again, participating in training with that. And I will say, I think the finance team did a fabulous job with that conversion. I have been through one of those myself. It's never a pleasant thing, but it went well from what I understand. Been looking at some of our existing contracts and our RFPs that are out on the street and the things that are coming up, wanting to kind of get a good idea who our vendors are, who we're doing work with. Also try to kind of build a framework, for our budgeting process that's coming up. Actually Jane and I are starting next week, looking at the budget stuff. Reviewing the long-range financial plan and doing some fiscal year-end rebudgeting. Got familiar with that long-range financial plan, what it says, and how it was put together and what it kind of looks like in a high view. But looking at some year-end rebudgeting, this is kind of something that I feel is necessary for us to do and get in place. I feel like we have to know where we're at and where we're going in order to be really effective, with my job. And so these two things kind of fit right in line with that. Started researching our fair policy framework, developing an outline, did some research into some of our peer agencies, what their fair policies look like, what is all covered in those. And then from that, I've kind of developed an outline for us to kind of work with, analyzing fare collection per mode and relative to ridership trends. Again, a data-oriented agency and trying to really dig into those things. And then just overall strengthening my understanding of the transit industry itself. Having spent 17 years in school finance, this is completely new, but trying to absorb as much information as I can and how I can relate to the transit industry and be an effective leader. So what we're looking at as far as going forward, I mentioned the rebudgeting, completing that process. It has, with the conversion in the software, I've had to do a lot of digging on historical data, but I'm really working into that and hope to be done and be able to share that with the leadership team, the department, so everybody knows where they're at, and what we're looking at as far as year end. Advance that fair study and policy options. Again, continue to work towards developing that fair policy that is really one of the top priorities here in the agency. I've been working with the finance staff on developing cost allocation and cost of service model. I'm learning that's a big driver in the way we operate and will be a big driver in the way we structure our budget in the coming year. So really, continuing to develop that. One of the things we want to do is be able to take that long-range financial plan that's really at 10 years or so right now and push it out to 20 years. Again, so that we can have a look at what it is. That's not a document we develop and we put on a shelf somewhere. That's a document that we use for our decision-making for everything that goes on within the organization. And so looking forward to that. And then finally, just reviewing and enhancing our monthly and quarterly financial reports. I want to be able to strengthen our transparency, forecasting, decision-making. My hope is that in the future months, you see that information presented to you a little bit differently, in a way that is more transparent, easier to understand, and just helps you kind of get a bigger picture of the organization. So again, excited to be here, energized to be here, and I think we've got a great team, a great leadership, and I'm excited for what the future holds. So there are no questions. The staff recommends the board approve the monthly financial statement for December 31st, 2025, and the grants report for the period ending December 31st, 2025.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, I recommend that we approve the monthly financial statements and the grant reports for the period ending December 31st, 2025.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, team. Appreciate that. All right, item 3, discuss and consider approval of a resolution approving the budget revision 2026-03 in the amount of $475,000 to be allocated for the purchase of 3 40-foot Gillig diesel buses from Dallas Area Rapid Transit, DART. This is an action item, and we have Lisa Taylor, our VP of Operations.
Mr. Vice Chair, if we could also open discussion on RA04, this briefing takes both of them together.
So we'll go ahead and open up number 4 as well, which is discuss and consider approval of a resolution authorizing the chief executive officer to negotiate and execute necessary documents, including the execution of an asset transfer and in-plant services agreement for the purchase of 3 2020 Gillig buses from Dallas Area Rapid Transit, an amount to exceed, not to exceed $253,000, and an in-plant inspection not to exceed $47,000.
Good morning. I'm here to talk buses again. So, last month we talked about our revenue fleet plan and give you an update. Tomorrow, March 1st, this may be news to some people. Our refurbished bus, the bus we want to get refurbished, will be picked up at 8 a.m. tomorrow, and we are looking forward to it coming back. So by the end of December, we should have it back wrapped and ready to go. We're going to talk about the DART buses that we discussed last month. So we want to purchase, transfer 3 DART buses to DCTA. We agreed upon an amount of $300,000 per bus. We will transfer, DART will transfer their grant to us, and we will have an out-of-cash pocket for 3 buses of $252,000. So our plan to purchase 11 buses, we will reach that by 2028 instead of 2029 based on our financial plan. Our out-of-pocket is $471,000, which will include the technology plan that's on our current buses and also to wrap our buses so they will look like DCTA buses. Also, a part of that plan is to when we transfer, we have to for our new buses that that we're purchasing at Gilly, the 6 that are already in production, DART has a group that do inspections, and those inspections are required by the government. We have to be sure we have maintain the same control the FTA requires, and the 3 buses will be subject to the review as part of the triennial program, and we will use the DART inspectors to inspect our buses that are Gilly. So the $253,000 is for the purchase of the 3 buses from DART that will be transferred, and the $47,000 will be for the inspections of the buses that we are contracting with the DART inspector to do at the Gilly plant. Any questions?
Not seeing any questions.
Staff recommends the board approves a resolution approving a budget revision in the amount of $475,000 for 3 40-foot Gilly buses. And staff recommends the board approve a resolution authorizing the CEO to negotiate and execute documents for asset transfer and in-plane inspection agreement.
Board, I'll take a motion on both of these.
Do you need 2 separate motions, one for each?
Ideally, you make them 2 separate, but we lump things together all the time here, so whatever works best.
I'll make a motion, we approve RAO 3 as read.
I've got a motion to approve RAO 3 as read. Do I have a second? All right, a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
And
Motion passes.
I'll make a subsequent motion for approval of RAO 4 as read.
Second. I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, team. Appreciate that. All right, we're gonna open up 5 and 6 together. Discuss an update on the Denton County Transportation Authority marketing program and consider approval of a task order with Ruby Media in an amount not to exceed $50,000 for expanded marketing campaign. Also consider approval of a resolution approving budget revision 2026-04 in the amount of $50,000 for expanded marketing campaign. We do have Randy Evans, our marketing communications manager, here to present.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay.
So many clicks.
Oh, no.
Here we go.
Let's see. Too far ahead.
Yeah, we're on.
Gonna have to back it up.
Back it up.
Still going.
Going around. Yeah. All right, sorry about that. Okay, last time we were here, it's about 6 months ago. Since then, we've done some very cool things. Over the last 6 months, we've seen significant growth in our social media. We have over 1 million impressions in that short time frame. Engagement is up over 144%. We have over 375% increase in video views and 239 more published posts. Our top engaging post runs the gamut from spotlighting employees to riding the A train to some of our community support sponsorships. And then going forward, how did we do these things? We changed the strategy or improved the strategy, impactful strategy, more engaging video content. We increased our videos quite a bit. Instead of focusing on, increased metrics and items that the public really doesn't understand, we focused on the employees. We focused on the residents, what the services mean to the community, what we provide to them, where they can go with services, whether it's the A train, Go Zone, the bus, obviously.
more engaging content. We post member cities. We post in our member city Facebook groups. So instead of just posting on DCTA channels, we now are posting in Highland Village member posts, Highland Village, Denton, Louisville. Also, we're actually getting more engagement with some of the community groups that are out there. We share their information, they share ours as well. And so that's increased it as well. Platform specific content. So instead of you go to Facebook, you go to Instagram, you go to X, instead of having the same verbiage, the same photos on all three platforms, we identify that each one of those platforms and their users are quite different. They look for different things. Instagram, you're going to be more visual. Facebook is more information. It does tend to be in the older demographic, whereas IG tends to be a little younger. Whereas X, it's more information. You have your character limits. You want to get in, get out. So now, if you go to our our Facebook page, our Instagram page, you see there's each one has its own identity. You'll see more reels on Instagram, more visuals. Facebook is more information based, and these also played a critical role in during the snow and ice event January. Fleet makeover. Last time we were here, we gave you some options on what the future designs of the buses would look like. As a reminder, everything is going back to looking like the train, so we can have a symmetry of all of our assets. This is the final design for the bus. Some minor tweaks from our last go round. We extended the green a little further back. You'll see the green, silver, and the blue, similar to the train, along with the yellow at the top there. So the bus that leaves the yard tomorrow will come back with that wrap in December. Also, we are going to look at, we're in the process of redesigning the Go Zone vans as well, so that they are similar to the bus and the A train. Again, the green, silver, we did change a little bit with the blue, and then you'll see the yellow right on the hood to mimic the yellow striping that you see in the bus and the A train. And while we're at it, we thought, why not go ahead and redo the Go Zone logo? The Go Zone logo, this is right here to the left. We incorporate the red, the blue, and the yellow. It also, as you notice, it mimics the DCTA logo with the swoosh. So we actually love this design. As you'll see, once this is officially approved, that will go on the new design of the Go Zone vans. So they all look consistent. And then we also, not pictured here, but there will be phone numbers on the back of that you see currently. Those will remain. What have we been up to? There's been everything from ghosts and goblins to Santa riding the A train in the last 6 months. We've tried to do some community promotions, again, to highlight where the A train can take you, the possibilities. We had ghost stories in October. That's a cool video we did there. You see Miss Randy in there, promoting the Denton Festival and all of their Halloween events. For the first time, at least since I've been here, we did wrap the DDTC and lights, both the trees out front and the roof line. And then also we had Santa at the train. Ended up reading Christmas stories from the entire length of the train ride. And then following that, we gave the children and families the opportunity to take photos with Santa. It was both of those events were sold out. We did max out the numbers that we felt comfortable doing that, and we'll continue to grow those on an annual basis. Community sponsorships. Again, we've been quite busy. We've hit all of our member cities 2 to 3 times. Highlights include Denton Arts and Jazz Festival. We attended the City of Louisville Employee Health Fair over here to the left. The Highland Village concerts at the park. And then we had a big check presentation as part of the Highland Village Texas Fallen PD tribute event. We will continue to look for opportunities. Our CEO is going out to be a parade judge this afternoon at the chili cook-off. And so I know they're looking forward to seeing him. So we'll continue to highlight those community events. We recently just got back. All this hard work, not only from the marketing team, but all of DCTA, APTA, which just awarded us a first place prize for our agency-wide recruitment campaign. And while it was the marketing and communications and customer service that went down, this is a team event, a team accomplishment. Every time they see me or someone from marketing comms, we either have a camera, a video, something we're trying to get them to go live on. And so without them going forth and providing us with how they feel about working for DCTA and what providing these services mean to them, to the community, we can't get it on film. And so the great thing about here is the people. And I think that's what shined through in this campaign, and which is why we got first place. So, awesome. So the second part, this is what we've done. And before we go here, is there any questions related to previous work?
I got two if nobody else does.
Okay.
First of all, love the idea that DART has got going on where they've got a DJ on the train.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if you guys aren't interested in recreating stuff from around the region, but that might be a fun one.
Yeah.
Is there any strategy or thought on YouTube as a channel?
Yes, we do have a YouTube page. Currently, it houses all of the videos that we currently have produced. Okay. So the first time you'll see a video is going to be on the Facebook, IG, but our social channels. Once we release them there, they all go to live on YouTube. So going forward, as we build our video content, we will start to promote the YouTube channels more. But just over the last 6 months, we did want to focus on our 3 primary channels, but we do keep it active. It does house all of our current videos. And as we solidify these channels, we will proceed to up in the YouTube platform.
And is there any talk or any look at TikTok?
Potentially, we are aware. It's definitely a specific target group. You do have to be careful about the content you put out, but we're keeping our eye on it. Right now, I think we're better served solidifying these 3 to 4. But it's right now, I would say it's not for us per se.
Sure.
But we definitely keep an eye on it and where it's going. At one time, Facebook was for young folk. So things change. So if it does change to a different demographic, we'll keep our eye on it. And if there's opportunities where we can kind of hop in and hop out, if the right opportunity presents itself, then obviously we'll jump on it.
Yeah, no, I'm going to lean on your expertise on which platforms resonate with our ridership and what makes the most sense. I know that in the research, and I've been spending a lot of time on this over the last year, is Kristen can probably attest to, and we all know Facebook is the rage machine. It's got the most negative response rates of any of the channels. Twitter, I'm never calling it that new name, is not far behind. Insta has definitely got a lot. It's much more of an aesthetic. It's much more upbeat.
Yeah,
and I think what you guys are doing on the channels, by the way, really, really good stuff.
Thank you.
I cannot tell you. I mean, the change in tone, the speaking, the messages of the impacts that we have. Yeah, there's data in there, but you're telling our story, and you're telling the story of our riders and our drivers, and it is very difficult for the rage machine to be upset when we're talking about people who are helping people. And that's the core of what we do here. So I applaud you for the work that you've done to this point. The statistics are one thing, but those statistics are because I think you're really showing what we do here, as opposed to the bus route will be this, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. So that's what we've done. Now the next steps. What are we about to do? We're here today to discuss an expanded marketing campaign promoting DCTA services in the southern zones. What we're after, we want to reinforce the awareness and increase use of DCTA services by our member cities. Reinforce the overall value, increase understanding of where it can take me and how. What are the options to get there? Target audiences, we're going to focus on our member city residents, visitors, and those who work within the member cities. Residents 65 plus also. Caregivers, family members for residents age 65. A lot of what we hear from our residents is that yes, they do have family members that can take them to doctor's visits and shopping and things like that, but they want that independence. And we're going to remind them that DCTA can provide them that independence. So the messages to the Southern Zone, like I said, where can I go for Go Zone? Address the need. Why not Go Zone? We understand that, you know, several of us have 2, 3, sometimes even more cars in the garage, but is it always the best option for you? For A-Train, go within and beyond Denton County, promote A-Train upgrades and how they benefit the residents. Position A-Train as a viable alternative to driving. We're going to look to partner with some of the sports teams, major events that maybe go outside of Denton County, but to save on parking, the commute, why not hop the A-Train, hop a Go Zone? You don't have to worry about driving back. Access, focus on a sense of independence, convenience and cost savings, and focus on how to sign up and register. We feel a lot of people would want to use the services, but they're not comfortable with the services, or they don't understand how to register for the services. So we're going to attempt to close that gap. The creative, fill in the blank, playful, start having our advertising mimic what we're doing on social media. Have a little fun with it. DCTA takes you anywhere life takes you. If you want to go play, why not Go Zone? Go taste, Go Zone. There's several restaurants within the member cities in the Southern Zone that will benefit from this campaign. Our goal is to push residents to them. Reinforce DCTA as the hero to getting where you need and want to go. Not just as a service, but again, it's a service that gives me back my independence. I don't have to call my mom, dad, sons, daughters to take me to this place or that place. We have a service right here in Denton County that will grant you that independence to go where you want to go, and most importantly, when you want to go. Before we get there, I do be back at it. Oh, please go back. Apologies. Okay, before we get here, I did want to open up again to any comments about your ideas of where you think you guys are in the community. From an advertising standpoint, we have 2 options. The entire budget allocated on the Southern Zone, which is the messaging that we just talked about. And then there's an option 2, message above plus the Southern Zone, plus getting into those shopping districts and the connectivity to the Flower Mound District. Getting Highland Village and Louisville residents, showing them where Go Zone can take you if we were to expand some of the Southern Zone. Now, from a marketing standpoint, I can sit here and tell you where we should put advertising. Obviously, all the retail shops at Highland Village, but would love to hear your feedback on, you know, where you think the advertising should live. We are going to work with the cities as well to get into the water bills. And so we can start promoting Go Zone and the A-Train and those, so residents see it firsthand. Put information in the water bills about how to register, where to register. Some of the frequently asked questions that we know, we can go ahead and put those answers there. But I would love to, if you guys have some feedback now, or you can come back later, but would love to hear your thoughts.
Wholeheartedly support option 2.
Okay. Well, we can definitely go that route. So obviously budget approval can be flexed. It sounds like option 2 may be it. So what that means, not only will we promote the opportunities in the Southern Zone, it'll be expanded Southern Zone plus the Flower Mound District as well. So we'll take some of those same strategies and just expand the media buy.
And let me just put a sharp point on this. Appreciate the feedback. The board has a decision coming up in the near future about what to do with Go Zone capacity as we continue to optimize services. So the decision to this gives us direction that if you all choose that down the road, then we can flex the budget into that. If you do not choose that, then we will not flex the budget in that direction. So I just want to be very purposeful about making that clear.
If there's any questions, any further questions?
So, Chair. The idea again, just, I want to make sure I understand it, and also for the people that might be listening, it's when you're talking about the flower mound option, it's just residents within our zones that can go there and.
Yes.
Yeah, just want to clear that.
Yeah, we will, Austin's got a briefing coming up about the intermediate service plan, and we'll talk about, there's technology enablement that could, in short, you'd have to have a registration demonstrating your residency in Louisville, Highland Village, or Denton to have access in the app to be able to do those trips. But we'll talk more about that in the upcoming group.
With that, staff recommends the board approves the expanded marketing campaign and task order with Ruby Media in the amount not to exceed 50,000. And then including with 6, staff recommends the board approve a resolution approving budget revision 2026-04 and the amount of 50,000 for expanded marketing campaign.
I'll entertain a motion on RAO 5. Unless you got a question.
Nope. Motion to approve RAO 5.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. RAO 6.
I'll also motion to approve RAO 6.
And a second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And it passes. Thank you so much for all you guys are doing. It's a great job. Next up, a single item. Item 7, discuss an update on the City of Frisco technology-based transit concept. Paul Christina.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. And before I get started, I just want to again say my congratulations to the marketing team and all of DCTA for their recognition at APTA. It was just a year ago that Randy Evans came on board and that we hired our external marketing firm, and in a very short time have gone from 0 to 60 on this stuff. So we appreciate all the work of the team and then the input from the board to help us get these messages tailored and in the right place. So this is a discussion item only, no board action is required. And this is a conversation around the opportunity to provide a general public GO zone service in the city of Frisco. As you recall, and this slide is showing you back in August and October of 2024. This is a conversation that has evolved over some period of time. DCTA has provided contract services to the city of Frisco for elderly and disabled paratransit since 2015. Frisco was an original founding member of DCTA, though they didn't opt in for the half-cent sales tax, but they continue to have a board seat with us, represented aptly and ably by Mr. Denny Franklin. And so the conversation about this opportunity has been percolating for a while and really came to the forefront in 2024, about the same time that the board started asking the question, why are we doing contracted services and what are we trying to accomplish? And so at this time, we did not have the policy that we have in place right now, and we were presented with this opportunity that said the cost of service is about $2.7 million a year. We would, if we generated an admin fee at 1.6 million, that's about the 60% threshold. Do we believe that this would enable us to accomplish the objectives that were coming into focus through our new member and contracted service policy? Ultimately, the board adopted the new member and contracted services policy in March of 2025, I believe. And I've underlined and excerpted things here that talk about why we would choose to do something like that, or why you would choose to approve something like this. The intent of contracted services to provide an avenue for a non-member municipality to become a member of DCTA and expand the service area. Build a network of transportation in North Central Texas. If we do a contracted service, we want it to be in the 3 to 5 year time frame because it's not forever. We exist primarily to provide the services inside of our member cities, and these contracted services are good opportunities, but they are not the reason that we exist solely. Through the contracted service term, we should be in regular dialogue with the requester to understand what is their interest in a long-term contracted services relationship or the opportunity for membership in DCTA. And that at some point in that period, the two sides, DCTA and the non-member city or the contracted services city, should be formulating a long-term contracted services arrangement, initiate application into DCTA, or ending the service. And then lastly, as we put together this contracted services arrangement, You, the board, may require financial consideration for the following types of costs and fees for the service. Not just the cost of service, but what's the incremental staff and resources required to deliver the service, or how can resources in DCTA be optimized to help? There's an indirect cost of service, and then you were very explicit about a non-member fee that is to reflect the value that DCTA is bringing into the organization, and then to provide opportunity for our members to benefit from the arrangement. So what I have for you right now is a very high level overview of what the structure would look like, what the service would look like. This is a picture that was that's showing you the city limits of the city of Frisco. Here's the 121 corridor. And the budget for the service is 62,640 service hours per year. That allows up to 20 vehicles operating a 12-hour service day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. For the entirety of a year. The fare structure is being developed and is in process. This, again, eligibility is general public. The launch zone would be done in 2 phases. Number one, the light blue here shows you what the initial boundary would be. This is centered on the tollway and commercial corridor. Again, the idea is to provide connectivity for workforce mobility. And then the zone would also connect with a nonstop shot to the Northwest Plano parking ride on the DART system. Because again, the idea, one of the driving forces behind this is workforce mobility for the city of Frisco. This is a picture of the cost model for what the service would look like. Again, thinking back to this policy that you all adopted, you're looking for a 3 to 5 year time period. This would be a base 3-year period, and then there would be a single 2-year option. First line is the GoZone cost of service, and the great news is that having recently recompeted our GoZone contract, we have cost certainty on the service for the entire course of the base year service. And then our paratransit cost of service is again recompeted just last year, so we have certainty on that cost through the 3-year base period. And then the administrative cost line is the summation of all of these things that are in gray. And in gray, you see the non-member fee talked about in the policy, you see the indirect cost of service, and you see the allowance for indirect staff and resources. This doesn't mean that these dollars have to all be spent. If they don't, then they roll up into the bottom line for DCTA, but this provides us the flexibility to try to meet the need with the resources that are brought specific to this deal, because this allows us to protect the assets and the resources of our member cities. Overall, the summation of those administrative costs is about 60%. You see that there. And so with direction from you today, we would continue developing 2 things, one, or really 3. One, an amendment to our existing task order, or a new task order with VIA, for providing this 62,000 some odd hours for the Frisco zone. We would be amending our interlocal agreement with the city of Frisco that exists today just for paratransit services. It would open up to provide this GoZone service. And then we're also working through Dallas Area Rapid Transit for a potential license agreement to access that Northwest Plano Park and Ride. Their board has a policy about non-DART members connecting to DART assets. And so we need to understand, what does that mean for this service, and what would be required there. Any costs for that would be above and beyond what's listed here. We are on a path, again, at your direction, to be able to get an agreement to you potentially as early as next month, as the city of Frisco has indicated their interest in starting service in the May or June timeframe in advance of the World Cup. And we've gotten good word from VIA, our partners there, that they could support that sort of timeline. And so with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have. Otherwise, just looking for direction from you all that this seems like the right track. It seems like it's aligned with the policy that you all have recently adopted. Or if we need to course correct, certainly open to that as well.
So the cost for the DART licensing agreement for the connection, you said that would be in addition to this. So where does that go? Is that a pass-through cost that goes to the city of Frisco, or is that something that has to get absorbed through? measure?
I'm contemplating that as a pass-through cost to the city of Frisco. I've made the city of Frisco staff known, I've made that known to them that it's a policy. I've made the call to DART. We're working through it. We don't know what the ultimate outcome of that is going to be. As I read the DART policy, it seems like there's a threshold, a minimum threshold, that if you're under the threshold, there is no cost, but I need clarification on that before I can assert it
Okay.
confidently. But
Thank
no,
you.
the point is it would not be taken out of these numbers here.
Paul, I'm thinking about the political piece of that. Would it be easier to talk to the board in terms of DCTA connectivity to that? Or would it be easier to talk to that in terms of Frisco connectivity to that?
It's a great point. And that's part of the conversation. Is the license agreement for DCTA? Is it for the city of Frisco? Is it for VIA? I think maybe the DCTA license would be a preferred path, but we have to.
Yeah, with a pass through, of course, to Frisco.
Correct.
So, okay. Just want to make sure we're aware of I don't want to get sucked into DART and all of that stuff. I want to be one big happy transit family.
Yes. Other questions? Okay.
Looks good. It's promising. Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir. We'll continue to proceed in this direction. Thank you.
All right, item 8, discuss update on Denton County Transportation Authority data management and construction of our data warehouse. Austin Frith.
Morning, Mr. Vice Chair and members of the board. I'm going to be presenting a little bit of information about our history with data management and options for a path forward. I will preface this that I have Kyler Hagler, our Director of IT, on deck. Might need to phone a friend when it comes to the intricacies of what we're talking about here. So where are we at today? If you recall, we have the Accenture Transformation Initiative from a few years ago. That effort identified 4 key areas. One of those being the finance ERP replacement. That's been done through Tyler. Another one was improving data collection and management practices. This is ongoing. We actually have a SOP that's created for data collection and data management. We're going to continue to build those best practices. The following 2, enterprise performance and dashboarding, and then sourcing and training on visualization and tools for data. Those are our 2 needs that we're going to talk about today. So what do we report on today? Ridership for data for all modes. This is operational performance, including bus and access, on-time performance, revenue miles, hours, microtransit, KPIs like seat unavailability and wait time, and then rail being on-time performance. We also report on incident frequency ratio regarding safety, contracted services data, and regulatory reporting that has to be done through National Transit Database and NCT COG. I will say there's 5 bullet points here. These 5 bullet points are made up of spreadsheets with thousands of tabs and rows, as you can imagine. So it may look simple, it is very complex. So here's where we want to go. The vision is a central SQL-based data warehouse, one single source of truth for all of our data. From these feeds, we're envisioning dashboards, as you see on the right here. That will be dashboards for executive leadership to make quick decisions on service models, support planning and development tasks, operations, infrastructure, and assets, safety, and customer service. What does that mean in practice? It means we start to eliminate the manual Excel-based calculations that we're doing today. It means we improve data quality through validation rules, error checking, and standard definitions across the organization. This plan is to have a fully automated ETL feeds, that's extract, transform, and load, pulling data from our various sources like VIA's source data, hop through, Swiftly, Spare Labs, and Tyler. These would run on scheduled pipelines, daily, weekly, monthly, or as needed. And on top of that, we would have Power BI dashboards that are being fed from these pipelines. Now, if we were to move forward with a consultant to support this effort, there's 2 different columns that we've divided here based on what DCTA will be responsible for and what we would engage in a consultant for support on. DCTA's job would be to provide the business rules and KPI definitions, things like how we calculate vehicle revenue miles, vehicle revenue hours, unlinked passenger trips. We would validate data outputs, coordinate system access, and serve as subject matter experts from the different organization departments. And critically, we champion adoption internally, training staff, promoting usage, and updating our SOPs as automation becomes online. The consultant would handle the heavy lifting on the technical side, designing and building a warehouse architecture, developing all the ETL pipelines for our SOP reports, and then converting our Excel formulas into automated logic, supporting building of these dashboards and providing training and documentation for all of it. In terms of the path forward, we're thinking about this into 3 phases. Currently, we're continuing to build interim Power BI dashboards through internal resources using existing data and where they're housed right now. We're creating this living inventory of dashboards and identifying any gaps along the way. We're designing these with future migration in mind, so we're not wasting time. When we do have this warehouse, we can quickly switch over. This gives us immediate visibility into near-term needs and decisions that need to be made. And then long-term, we're looking at deploying dashboards across all departments. So each department has visibility on operational data, KPIs, anything that would drive a decision that they need to make. And then finally, looking at once we get this dashboard stood up and we have these, or this warehouse stood up and we have these dashboards being built, incorporating some type of trends analysis, trends analytics, so we could really be on the forefront of the decisions that we are making. So this is a high level consumer report style grading chart. We've engaged 3 firms that specialize in this type of data warehouse implementation. We are looking at ways that each of them are have proposed to do the building of this warehouse, to looking at how we could customize it into the future, how fast we can deploy this, what is the level of risk transfer that they would take on versus we, looking at overall maintenance impact. Some of these have a subscription tied to them, so looking at that cost impact. Staff training, how to use these dashboards, how to create your own dashboards, how the feeds are being fed, make sure all the data's up and live. And then expandable platform architecture, moving into the future as our data becomes, as it grows, what's the opportunities to expand. And then finally, this is a high-level timeline of what we're looking for. So we just briefed you on kind of the strategy we're looking at. We would come back next month with a recommendation for a vendor and a budget to go with that. And then we would enter an agreement with this vendor and then start that data warehouse foundation work and hopefully get to the end of a project handover sometime in the 10 to 11 month timeframe. And I know that's a lot of information. Happy to answer any questions.
Austin, a quick question. Is there any, when we're engaging a consultant and we're talking about building pathways, there's 5 or 6 different vendors out there that we're trying to gather all the information from. Is there any assurance that when we build that pathway or the consultant builds a pathway, that one of our vendors don't change their processes and then we have to build a new pathway? Or is there, can we get that vendor to commit to creating that capability to build a pathway that we paid for?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think when we're looking at long-term maintenance impact and how much of the vendor is going to build this for us to be able to take it on and customize it later, that's a huge scoring criteria that we're looking at. There's a vendor here that does more soup to nuts and they build us it and they maintain it. And to your point, if somewhere down the line they change, what does that mean for us? So we're looking at that and we're scoring it appropriately.
Thank you. Looking at, first of all, I wanted to say I'm really excited about this. If we want to be a data-based organization, we have to have access to the data quickly. And if we're doing it all manually, there's potential for human error. So we need it quickly and we need it accurately. So I'm really excited to see this move forward. I did have one question. Do we think that there's opportunity for some of these dashboards to be publicly available? Maybe not all, but some of them.
Yes, but today I think we have, I think in the past we had started to do some live data feeds into our website. Those have been disconnected as I'm aware. But yes, I think the idea is we would have a set of dashboards that would be publicly available that people can filter, you know, what they want to see within that dashboard. But yes. So
Thank you.
Yes.
Is there hardware baked into this consulting contract, or is this simply architecture and training and creating the APIs?
Kyler's going to take that.
I'll take this. We have yeah, I have one. We have hardware already available with capacity if needed. Some of these vendors are offering different solutions of all cloud-based software as a solution, as opposed to bringing it here on-prem. They both got their trade-offs, but yeah, we've got plenty of power on our side if that's what's needed compute-wise. So there should be no hardware required.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, as this is a discussion item, I think it's great work. I think it's important as we continue to use data to drive it. I think the biggest risk in all of this is that you can measure everything, what's important. So
yes,
thank you for that.
Yep.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to item 9, discussion update on A-Train enhancement program. And Austin remains at the helm.
All right. Where are we at? I'm sure y'all have seen this high level timeline. The dash line here is where we're at today. Program has many elements. Curve and speed, that is our project that we're moving, trying to get the train moving fast along its current alignment. We are well on our way there. I'll talk a little bit about what we have dashed in the red line there in a minute. Service hour expansion and PTC analysis, that's well underway. We're targeting summertime to have an update for you all on that. Downtown Carrollton, we'll talk about that in more detail here in a minute. That's probably the one that's moving the quickest and has the most updates. And then 15-minute headway, that schematic design is also moving as well concurrently with that task order. Curve and speed update. There's quite a bit going on here with this project. Good news is we submitted an amendment to the current Chrissy grant back, I believe, in the fall time. That amendment has been accepted by the FRA. So that's great news. We're going to be able to repurpose those funds that were awarded some time ago. We are submitting a detailed work plan that has to get approved before we start drawing down on that grant. And you'll see the funding summary that it's approximately $4 million. We have about 3.8 that's available right now. Moving down into the timeline, you'll see the curve and speed construction timeline from left to right. We are currently in the middle of the control line diagram work with Rio Grande. Subsequently, below that, you'll see the Chrissy grant timeline. So what this is trying to show is we've started the project. We've spent money up to this point on the project. The great news is we're in a point where once this Chrissy grant gets approved under this amendment, we'll be able to start transitioning that drawdown. So instead of DCTA capital, it'll move over into this Chrissy grant. One other item we wanted to point out was there's a concurrent project going on with Town of Hickory Creek. That includes some road construction along Carlisle Drive. That road construction is essentially going to close some part of Carlisle Drive in alignment with where our rail line goes. So we were thinking about how could we synchronize our project, which is also going to have to close the road for some civil work, align it with that construction so we could have essentially one Town of Hickory Creek closure. They would do their road work. We would come quickly behind them and do our civil work, and we can close it out concurrently. That is our thought to try and minimize impact for both projects. So I think we'd like to just hear some initial feedback on this and if that's something that we want to entertain.
I think that's a really good idea, coordinating it. It's gonna be challenging, but yeah, I think that's a great goal.
Anything else?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And the reason obviously is we're not under a hard and fast deadline to get this thing done. I've been reminded the first two words in our name are the Denton County Transportation Authority. So we should think about the broader community, not just our own stuff. And so I think this is a really good opportunity. I also want to say, for Jane Florowitz and Don Jones, we started this project with this Chrissy grant that had been awarded many years ago for a much more expensive project that involved hardware change out and lots of things that we decided we weren't going to do. And we said, we're going to try to get this thing reprogrammed and have it hit before we start spending money. And you all said yes to that. And it has worked out that way after 2 full years of working through the FRA and their grants team to get that done. So that plus Hickory Creek is a really good illustration of how our board, our staff, and the community kind of all work together to keep moving things forward, that we didn't have all the answers. And it's just a really good outcome for us at this stage. So thank you.
Awesome.
Shift over to downtown Carrollton. Here's where we're at with the current schematics. We briefly mentioned last month on this western alignment idea of essentially building a concurrent track down to downtown Carrollton that would potentially avoid our immediate investment we would need in PTC and any requirements from DG&O who operates on that same line. So the top picture here you see is the existing alignment. That green is essentially what original plans had stated. The orange line is the siding that would be constructed for that project to work. The bottom graphic here is this additional western alignment track that you see in the red. That would be the additional track that we would propose to construct to avoid any immediate investments in PTC and really keep us out of any conflicts we would have with the DG&O freight line that operates on that green line. This is a little bit more detailed view of the station alignment on both the existing and the western alignment. As you can see, that the new station on the western alignment on the below diagram shifts the station south. And there are some constraints in that area with right of way. There's also a pretty massive Dallas Water Utilities water line in that area that we're working through of how we could avoid that or at least mitigate it. So this just shows you where those two stations would align in the two options. Now we talk about project cost estimate. There's a lot of data here, so I'm going to try and walk you through this step by step. So just keep in mind this is about a 10% design level. As we speak today, in the summer of this year, we should have the final preliminary engineering design level done. We'll have more granularity to these numbers, but right now we're at about a 10%. So take these numbers with that statement. The western alignment, as you can see, comes in for the guideway and track elements, comes in about 22 million versus 30 million. This is due to essentially with the existing alignment, we'd have to make some track modifications. We may have to remove some track and replace it. So that cost is a little bit more there. On the station side, both alignments are similar at about 7.25 million. The western alignment, just to note here, the western alignment gives us a little bit more flexibility on platform configuration, but the cost overall are comparable. The site work and special conditions, the western alignment is actually higher here, and that's primarily due to the utilities we may have to avoid with that Dallas Water Utility water line and any other utility work may have to be done to relocate. Systems. This is our major big element here. This is where the PTC item lives. So for the western alignment with EATC system, we're about 38 million. for the existing alignment, we jumped to about 60. This is because with the existing alignment, there is thought behind we may have to dual equip DGNO's locomotives with our system so they can operate on both their existing one and our one. So that's where that additional money comes in. And then for the existing alignment with the PTC far right, that comes in about 166 million. Again, this is the full transition of our PTC system from EATC to IETMS. And that is the number as we sit today. Like I said, it's with this task order and the other analysis one, we are working on refining that. This is a little bit more simpler side that separates the base extension cost from the PTC cost. I think this is the clearest way to understand what's driving the main cost differences in the scenarios. The 2 mile extension and station, for the most part, is fairly consistent across all options. Again, you'll see where the PTC comes in, and that's our bogey we're dealing with on these costs. As mentioned previously, there was a 2022 LAN estimate that was submitted. That's currently in our long-range financial plan at 76.6. Just to clarify, what this didn't include was a passing siding, PTC, detailed design. There's also assumptions that we could achieve this with temporal separation with DGNO, and then it used average cost based on that time frame. So a lot of things that were in this $76 million estimate that we've now refined and got into our current estimate. So this is a high-level funding opportunity. I think we briefed this last month, but just to give you all another quick snapshot of where we're at today, some developments have happened in the past month on this. So top line is our amount that we have on our current long-range financial plan of 76.6. The build grant, I'm happy to share that we've submitted for that as of Tuesday of this week. The teams put together a great package. We'll see what happens, but I think we've got a pretty good shot at that award. We also have on here the RTC funding that was approved last month. So we've added that into the equation. And then the 5.24, that's essentially our local share that we've committed in the long-range financial plan. And then we come up with a diminishing funding gap from last month, but we still have about a $22 million gap that we're tracking right now. I will caveat that this is based on the Western alignment estimate. So as we move forward with that design and get more clarity on if that's a strong possibility, we may have to update this. And then as we move forward, we've consolidated some of our briefings for the remainder of this calendar year. We're looking to come back to you all in April with the crossings and quiet zone assessment findings. We have a meeting with Downtown Carrollton here in the next week. We're going to talk through some of these options that we could potentially close some crossings within that corridor. In July, we want to come back to you all with a PTC assessment update based on what we know with the design that's progressing and this idea that we may want to look at some options to extend that versus dual equipping DGNO locomotives. We'll come back to you all with those discussions. And then we want to come back sometime in the fall with a delivery method assessment. I know we briefed that several months ago with you all. We want to come back to that once the design's a little bit further along the way. We'll have some discussions around that. And then final cost estimates, we're suspecting those be done sometime in the fall. So we'll bring that to you all and look at some other funding opportunities and the timelines for that. Again, a lot of information. Appreciate the time today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Don't think I see any questions from the board. Thank you, Austin.
Thank you.
All right, we're up to item 10, discuss update on intermediate service plan phase 3. Brandon Maldonado.
I'm gonna apologize in advance because it's approaching lunchtime and my stomach's starting to growl.
I'll do my best to also respect your time, knowing we have another item after this one. So today's item is just a discussion item, no action today. Going over a quick recap of the scenarios we provided, but just a little bit narrowed down, and then focusing more on Go Zone implementation. So just a quick recap. The scenarios we provided last time were 5 in total, and we mostly focused on the geography and the capture for Go Zone from that perspective. But as we know, we're looking at year-round service efficiencies and how that is a benefit to DCTA, understanding that conversations with UNT are ongoing, and it's important to note that our alignment with their network may have an impact on these scenarios. So for that reason, we're going to kind of focus in on the scenarios that have more of that beneficial impact to DCTA, and then exploring that further as we move forward with those negotiations. So just a quick recap on scenario 2. So again, focusing on scenarios 2 and 4. We see here that the network is focused on expansion on University Drive as well as State Loop 288. And looking at that cost per passenger graphic, we are for the most part for peak periods in a bus favorable position. And this is kind of like our minimum expectation of what to see, showing that as we showed in previous presentations, those cost per passenger points don't reflect current growth and development in Denton, which has been kind of expansive over the last couple of years. So this is a graphic we provided in the past and just shows, you know, areas under construction, areas that had recent development completed, and those that are actually in the development review process. And those are things that we identify through coordination with the city of Denton and their development services. So what this reflects is, you know, Route 2 covers State Loop 288. It covers the Golden Triangle Mall area. It covers some social services like Serve Denton, the new VA building there at the Old Burlington. It covers the Denton Town Center, which includes kind of like the core commercial area where Target, Walmart, all our major retailers are, and also connects to the Med Park station. So when we look at all of this growth overall, we can expect that with scenario 2, we're going to have much higher ridership than the cost curve shows. So when we look at impacts to Go Zone, right, before we were showing, here's the capture we can anticipate based on looking at the data from fiscal year 25. These graphics here show what those remaining trips, the ones not captured, how they impact the Go Zone service. So you can see on the left side is scenario 2, and this is an impact to the trip distance, as well as the right side scenario 4. What we're seeing is at the core of it, trips, while they are reduced, the majority still remains between that 1 to 2 mile to 4 to 5 mile breakdown, kind of leaning on the 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. That still averages out to about a 4 mile trip. But we still see kind of that blue line, the blue lines are the remaining trips. We still see that there's still a large chunk of large trips remaining. That's something that we'll see with kind of the impact to how we provide that service. For scenario 4, there's a much greater capture. We were kind of pushing towards that 55% of trips captured. So you'll see that the remaining trips significantly decrease, but the trips are kind of expansive all around. Even on the trips greater than 5 miles, we're capturing those with scenario 4, because if you think about the commercial areas served, and I might go to, well, I think the next slide will show it better. We're talking about Razor Ranch area, Denton Town Crossing. Those new routes are where we're seeing a lot of the origin and destinations coming from. They're trying to get in between those 2 points, and those are the larger trips captured. Jumping into scenario 4, if we look at this further broken down, I mean, you can see on the bottom right, we're capturing about 54% of trips, and you can see those O&D points within a larger geography. The difference again on scenario 4 is that added modified Colorado Express, which further encourages the conversation with UNT about how we connect their service. How those negotiations go could mean either a consolidation of existing routes in that area or just a better connectivity from transfer points. And we'll show that here in that next slide. So looking at Route 4, this route covers, again, major retail in Razor Ranch Marketplace and the south side of US 380, which is the Razor Ranch Town Center. It also provides connections to university services. It'll have direct adjacency to TWU, but with transfer points along Bonnie Bray, we do get that connectivity to the UNT network currently. And I do want to point out there is also multifamily under construction in that area, so significant units also being added or could be captured. So now focusing on Go Zone, we did present high level some options in our last presentation. This kind of breaks it down further into how that would be impacted by the hours saved from scenarios 2 and 4. So visually, just to show you real quickly, option 1 is the option to expand the existing Denton zone into Northeast Denton, specifically the Hodges area. That's about a 1 square mile added to the network. Then with option 2, we see that western expansion from the zone across I-35 into the airport, major industrial warehouses that we've seen a significant request for expansion. Option 3 is what we talked about earlier with Flower Mound in previous presentations. This is the option specifically for Highland Village and Louisville residents for an opportunity for them to expand their reach into the Flower Mound area. This would not be an option to a member city that does not exist. It would be expanding reach of how we get to retail, how do we get to medical services. And we'll, with this option, there will be kind of coordination on how that looks on the back end on the VIA app. Option 4 of our core options is reflected towards the Louisville Highland Village KPIs and kind of bringing that back down to the 20-minute to be in line equitably with the Denton services. And as an alternative option, again, trying to address feedback we've heard from our communities, is a potential option 5 that would strategically expand the Go Zone boundary south towards Robeson Ranch, where we do have some requests trying to get into the core of the city. So now we'll go into how this breaks down into each scenario. So you'll see 2 summary tables here, breaking down scenarios 2 and scenario 4. What we see going top to bottom is ISP hours saved for each of these scenarios broken down by the implementation timeline. So we see fiscal year 26, if we were to implement in late summer, these are the hours potentially saved. They reflect a full year or a full quarter in this case, rather than a monthly breakdown of hours. On the next line, you'll see what we currently have built into our contract, which is holdback hours to be used if needed. Those are hours that we may potentially pull from during regular service as we're actively monitoring the service. This is what that breakdown looks like per quarter 4 and then full year 27. So this in total for scenario 2 means we have about 20,000 hours roughly for fiscal year 26 that we have available to pull from. And then for fiscal year 27, between 29 and 35-ish thousand hours under the scenario. Under scenario 4, that number increases as we talked about Go Zone capture being increased up to 54%. That number reflects a fiscal year 27 available hours to pull from of 47,000 to 50,000 roughly. So now how does this break down into the scenarios we propose? So breaking it down from scenarios 1 through 4, we can see the hours required to operate within those periods. So for example, Denton Hodges requires about 720 to 900 hours to implement a full year's worth of service. Going down the line, Denton West I-35 area goes up to about 3,500. For the extension into Flower Mound that would require up to 18,000, again, talking about scenario 2. So when you total all of these scenarios together as the core kind of options available, we can see that we would need a total of 40,000 hours to 43,000 hours to be able to address each of these options combined. So when you look at the difference, that means we would be short about 8,000 to 10,000 hours should we implement all. Now, that doesn't mean that that's kind of the direction the board would could go, but it kind of gives an example of what is available for each of those. And then further broken down, if the alternate option was explored, you can see how that breaks down. And then jumping into scenario 4, kind of following that same outline, we see that an all-in option on scenario 4 would not only be possible, but would also have remaining hours to look through or to have available for other options or adjustments from a daily monitoring standpoint. So with that,
If I could I jump in real quick if you go back? Great job breaking this down. I just want to highlight item 4 there, the Louisville Highland Village KPI. We have been working steadily since last summer, and after feedback to say we'd like to see the differentiation between the KPIs in Louisville Highland Village versus Denton in order to drive equity. The targets were 6% seat unavailability and a 20-minute wait time. Under the existing budget, we've gotten really close on the wait time, like 20.5 minutes, 20.7 minutes in the last few months, without releasing that additional 16,000 hours. What item 4 is saying is VIA says, if you want to get to those just in one fell swoop, that's the hours that are required, 19,000 to 20,000. I would, as we get to recommendations in upcoming briefings and start putting dollars and cents to this, I would recommend thinking about that line 4 as a potential allowance, not to exceed amount that we only release as we see that we're continuing to drive the differentiation between the 2 different zones, because we've made a lot of progress under the existing budget that we haven't hit the mark yet. But that's the conversation for next month. So you could short, that's a long way to say you don't have to take down all 19 to 20,400 hours on the Louisville Highland Village KPI thing in order to continue making progress, because that's a significant chunk of capacity and cost. Thank you.
I'd be happy to take questions before the last slide, which is our timeline, if there's any.
No, I definitely agree with that point on 4. I don't, I'd rather see an incremental approach to that if we're gonna move in that direction. I just, the marginal return on that, just Kristen and I looked at that, it just doesn't seem like, and we're talking for Louisville here, it just doesn't feel like the juice is worth the squeeze on that one. But if we can have an incremental place where we are working to continually adjust those KPIs, that may make a lot more sense on that one than jumping feet first into it.
What do you think the driving force is behind the high number of hours for alternate option on number 5 for ropes and range? I mean, 24 to 27,000 hours versus compare that to Louisville's base. I mean, that seems like it's higher than Louisville's base. So can you kind of dig into that?
Yeah, so for option 5, we need to consider the geography of the area covered and where vehicles are staging. So a request from one end of the boundary to the opposite end will kind of reduce our availability to serve other areas within the core of the network. So that's what's driving the increased hours on that scenario.
Yeah, the longer the trip, the more inefficient the service. And so you're just looking at huge trip distance from one end of that zone to the other.
So I also had a question similar to that about number 3, the Flower Mound extension. How are we estimating what those number of trips would be, since it's a service we don't currently offer? How are we coming up with what we feel like the demand for that service is from Highland Village and Louisville into Flower Mound?
That's a great question. I will probably have to lean on our VIA representatives to help me on that question, and we could probably provide a response back. But but the basis of it would be the general necessity or need or request that we've received in terms of, if you look at the service today, there might be a request to go outside the zone that is not provided, it's denied, but we have the data on the back end to support the demand for those areas. So they might say, in order to provide this trip, it's going to take an additional 4 hours based on distance. But I can get you a more solid answer on that.
Okay, and I assume that much similar to what you're talking about on number 5, that there's also significant, because those are longer trips. Definitely from the east side of Louisville over to Flower Mound, that's going to be a significant trip. Would probably, I would assume, would be what's driving, because that number seems really high.
If I may, so VIA is, and we can certainly go into more of this in our next conversation, but when we ask VIA to run these scenarios for us, they're using their proprietary travel demand model to look at, and they're looking at demographic information, census data, all that sort of stuff and all their history of other services across the country and across the world about what does this type of geography and development pattern generate in terms of demand. So somewhere it's inside that algorithm that comes up with these estimates, but it is not always the exact answer, as we learned when we first launched the service, that the travel demand model said one thing and the learned demand was something different. And so that's why you see this range of options, or not the range of options, but the range for each different option on the menu, is because it is somewhat imprecise based on what the travel demand model is telling us. And so that's why when we come back with a recommendation, we're going to ask for, here's the budget that we're requesting for these menu of items, and then we're going to do the contingency like we did last time. But the good news has been we haven't had to spend the contingency, but because we want to be able to be flexible to deliver what was expected.
Okay, and then I have one more question. So I think I asked this last month as well. So in both scenarios that we're talking about, this breakdown is showing how many go zone hours are saved. And then we're looking at how do we reallocate those hours, but it doesn't appear to be accounting for the added costs associated with the new routes or the modified routes, and what is the equivalent of hours in that? Because if we're looking at, anything that's in the negative range on the difference is an added cost, but we're also having the added cost of routes 2 and 4 and modified Colorado Express potentially. So what's the adjustment on those available hours based on taking the extra cost of the routes out?
Right. And so that'll be, as we're kind of building the story we're providing this stuff to you as we get it calculated and ready to go. So we have, for next time, here's what these bus routes are going to cost in terms of number of service hours, and then what's the cost of service per hour that we're talking about. That'll be on one column, and then here's your go zone stuff. Here's the number of hours and the go zone cost in the other column, so that you can be able to have that full comparison. So that's our work over the next 30 days. Doesn't mean that that's going to net out to zero, because the bus cost per hour is twice as much as what the go zone cost of service per hour is. But the dimension that helps the bus conversation is the opportunity for the ridership growth. So it's got to pencil out today, and it's got to be able to demonstrate the upside into the future. So short answer is you'll see bus hours on the alternatives alongside the go zone hours with the cost per service hour, so you can see the full ask all at once.
Rena, earlier we had a speaker give preference for scenario 5. Can you speak briefly to why we're favoring, or Paul, can we speak very briefly to why we're preferring scenario 4 over 5? And I'll just reiterate to the room or anyone watching that the difference between scenario 4 and 5 is 5 includes also the modified Discovery Park.
To clarify, you're referencing the bus scenarios?
Yes, the scenarios. So in scenario 4, it includes the revised Colorado Express. Scenario 5, it also, in addition to 4, also has Discovery Park modified. So just kind of speaking to the earlier speaker's preference for 5, kind of why we're preferring 4 over 5 on this slide.
So I'll address that. This scenario 2 is the one that DCTA can evaluate and make decisions based purely on our inputs and our outputs. Scenario 4 and 5 get into our engagement with the University of North Texas. Scenario 5 and the Discovery Park, we took that one out because there's really nothing to be gained for DCTA to run Discovery Park because we already served that with Route 6. There's not a lot of trips generated by GoZone in that corridor. Scenario 4, there's arguably opportunity for both sides in that, but again, today it's a university-based route, and so if we want to take a small step forward, we might consider what that could do for us. But scenario 2 is the one that we control all of the inputs and the outputs. So that's the reason why.
Thank you.
All right, so just briefly, we're providing a implementation timeline based on kind of where we're at today, looking at board approvals, providing more information to you on the cost and the cost breakdown between the bus operational cost and then GoZone, should it be reallocated to other areas. Looking to target a board approval for final recommendation in the April timeframe at the April board meeting. With an update to the board around June and August post-implementation. I won't go into intense detail similar to ISP phase 1. We'll be kind of breaking down on the recommended scenario, how that looks from actual implementation of service. So that's scheduling and blocking those routes, looking at bus stop implementation and agreements to ensure that we're serving the network at implementation start, and then looking at the back end of the GoZone scenarios identified to make sure that they're up and ready for a July implementation date. So that this is again just a discussion item, and I'll see you next time.
And I think it's important to point out that a lot of this in this conversation may be just a matter of more efficiently deploying capital. It may or may not have a large needle mover as far as, we freed up a ton of budget. It's just we're being more efficient with what we've got. So I don't want to necessarily set us up as a board to say, wow, I'm excited we're going to see, this big jump like we did the last time we adjusted modalities. This one seems to be a bit more refinement. Of course, we've got a lot of unknowns with UNT and maybe a conversation around if UNT chooses not to move forward in a certain way, we may still decide that for our ridership, there may be an opportunity for us to move forward and still gain something. So I think that's when I've been talking with Paul, I think that's the conversation that we're setting up for, which is going to be a little bit different from the last time that we changed modalities.
Good way to put it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, our next discussion item is an update on Consolidated Denton County Transportation Authority customer service function. We have Randy Trantis, our customer service manager, and Kyler Hagler.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm bringing up the rear, so here we go, and I'll make sure to take a brisk walk through this information as well. So just as a reminder, this is a discussion item only and no board action is going to be required today. So what we'll be discussing is an updated data set for our FY 25 and 26 call volume for DCTA and GoZone. We're also going to look at some initiatives we've taken in order to help in our call reduction. And then we'll also talk about a telephone system upgrade as well. And then how we got here, this conversation started back in October of 2023. Last discussion we had was in June of 2025. So currently our customer service model, today, if you call in and you need to talk to a GoZone representative about your ride or book a ride, you'll have to call into the main DCTA phone number and press option 2. However, for any additional question about our service or to book a paratransit ride, you'll have our in-house customer service who'll handle that. In addition, we do have a lobby window at the DDTC that helps with all of those questions as well in person, as well helps with individuals who need to purchase fare in person. Now, our future state and where we are trying to get to is to have the Go Zone calls as well as our customer service calls that we're currently doing in-source in-house with our DCTA customer service. However, the Go Zone driver experience complaints, those will still be housed with Go Zone so that they can do that prompt research once they get those complaints as well. And then for the DDTC lobby window, we are continuing to explore options on how we're going to do that in the future as well. Now, our staffing, as it is today, we have a customer service manager, one lead customer experience coordinator, and then 5 customer experience coordinators. Of those 5 coordinators, we have one who is in the lobby who splits their time between the lobby and the call center. And then we have 4 who are strictly full-time on the phones unless they're backfilling for that lobby representative when she's on break or lunch. Now, some call volume reduction strategies that we've been doing since our last discussion. The 3 top you see here have been implemented. We've had the RIDE DCTA launch in August of 2025 for our member cities. And since that launch, we've seen about a 34% ride bookings for our access customers for our member cities, which is really great. We're going to continue pushing this into our Frisco area with a targeted marketing campaign for the RIDE DCTA app for them. And our Go Zone call booking deflection, what we are doing here is realizing that we have people who are utilizing the app to book their rides, but they may not be able to get a ride or they want a better time. So they're calling in to try and get that. So we've been able to use the IVR system to identify those riders and help deflect those calls to let them know that, hey, the ride that you received really is the best ride that you've gotten. And then also our transit app, that's a current technology that we had. We were just able to upgrade that to the Royale suite, where now our passengers, they can trip plan, they can actually book a ride through Go Zone if it's not available in that area. There's a lot of things that they can do that empowers them so they don't have to call into the call center. Now, some things that we're in progress right now, we're working with our vendor who we use to book our paratransit trips in order to use their AI agent that they currently have. However, in order to do that, we need to identify some budget. Right now, and it's about $25,000 a year to deploy that. And then lastly, we have a Go Zone AI agent as well. So if they need to book a ride, they'll be able to do so by this AI agent. However, our current phone system does not allow for that to happen. So with that, I'm going to bring up my friend Kyler here so he can talk about some initiatives we're looking at for a telephone upgrade.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As of a few minutes ago, Kyler Hagler, Director of Information Technology and Cybersecurity. Just want to touch high level real quick on where we are currently on the phone system. You guys approved an ELP for fiscal year 26 in the amount of $81,000. We're currently going through and identifying kind of what our current state looks like. What are we trying to move towards? And then kind of what are the features we're looking for to really make sure this system can grow and absorb the Go Zone call center experience if we decide to insource that. A few high pieces to touch on. Some of the things we're really looking at is omni-channel support, so we can not just communicate with customers over the phone, but over the internet. Whether that be web chats, right, or texting, whatever it may be. We want to meet the customer wherever they want to meet us, right? Contact center capabilities is a big one, just because we're running a call center for customer service. That includes CRM integration, so customer relations management. When you call in, we know who you are already. We know what type of modes you like to travel, things like that. And then also workforce scheduling optimization for Randy and her team to make sure that she's staffed appropriately based on prior demand and trends on call volume. Target deployment is going to be this summer, just because call volume tends to go down a little bit like that. Work around here slows down a lot for us in IT, just a lot less service down the road. So it's a good point for us to focus on and push this project across the finish line at that time. I anticipate we'll come back in April or May to get an authorization for you guys to move forward, whatever we just decide to select. And then real quick, we've got a few vendors we're looking at right now. Want to draw your attention to them.
The big thing with all five of these is they're cloud-based. One of the big issues right now, as Randy mentioned, is our IVR doesn't allow some of those AI or advanced capabilities that we want to take advantage of with GoZone or Spare. So we've verified these five will allow us to meet those requirements and utilize those technologies. So, hand it back. Thank you.
Okay, just briefly, we're going to take a look at DCTA customer service current performance. I'm happy to report that with all those initiatives that we just talked about, our call volume has decreased about 23%. The big highlights is going to be that Ride DCTA app that they're using to book their rides. But also you'll see here in a later slide, I've been able to look at call trends and identify where we can move resources around to better serve the customers to help with that call volume. So our performance goals that we're continuously looking at is our quality assurance. Most notably, I want to highlight our call abandonment rate. Now, when I first talked to y'all back in December of 2024, our call abandonment rate was 24%. So we were not handling 24% of the calls that were coming into the call center. However, and this is actually F26 actual, we're at about 10% right now with our abandonment rate, which is absolutely awesome over the time frame that we've had to reduce it. In addition to that, we are currently working on decreasing our average call wait. So that's the amount of time someone spends in queue before they get to us. Our goal is 2 minutes or less. So as you see, we're trending toward that goal right now. And as far as GoZone's customer service, they've been able to decrease their call volume about 19% year over year. And that's in help with that call deflection as well that they've employed back in December of 2025. And then this is just a look at our combined call volume with GoZone and DCTA, broken out hourly for Q1. And this is what I actually use to determine, okay, if as of today, we're going to pull the plug and do this today. This would be how many FTEs that we would need to hire to handle the call volume as it is today. And there's some planning factors that come into play that we use the Erlang calculator, which is an industry standard to determine staffing for call centers. And as of today, if we were to say, okay, we're going to go with it, we would need about 5 additional FTEs to help with that call volume. So next steps, we're going to continue with our call reduction strategies and see if we can further get those calls down, work in partnership with IT to see if we can get that phone system upgraded. Also, partner with our internal and external stakeholders to see if we can get some more self-service tools for our passengers, continue to evaluate the call volume trends, and then lastly, come back to you and see if come back and talk about a cost analysis and also provide a staffing model as well. So I know that was pretty brisk, but do y'all have any questions for me?
That's not a question.
Make your start.
Okay.
I do have a question, but it's easy.
Sure. I just wanted to say how excited I was to see all of this data and the methodology of seeing where those bulk calls were coming from and experimenting with ways to try to bring those down. And it's really exciting that some of that implementation has resulted in fewer calls. So, I mean, way to go to everybody that's worked on that. That's been really exciting to see.
Quick question. Do we have a CRM?
You want me to take that?
Yeah.
We have CRM Lite, that's what I call it. It's GoGov, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it does a little bit of what CRMs traditionally do, but there's not a lot of access for the customer service reps to engage with it.
Right.
More so for public comments on, we have this issue or things like that.
So are we anticipating that whatever we do for a content center application has a CRM component built into it, or are you expecting us to maybe look at a CRM?
Well, we're doing both. So we're going to make sure whatever we pick has the ability to either have its own CRM or integrate with other, third-party CRMs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Have
just
a
don't know
preference yet?
No, not yet. I just don't know what makes sense for a call center
right
when it comes to that. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, or Vice Chair, if I could just to brag on Randy, she's done a tremendous job taking a customer service center that was at NTMC, bringing it to DCTA, assembling the data, tracking it, and then not just that, but also you walk in that place, there's bulletin boards and there's handwritten notes. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff over there that shows you got a really cohesive team and a really effective leader on the soft skills side and the hard skills side. And I appreciate that. So
Listen, she had me at Erling tables.
that's right. So anyway, thank you, Randy.
All right, that's item 11 for discussion. We are now up to informational reports. These should be in your packets. Don't know if anybody has any questions on these, but safety, service, and ridership, update on the TOD. Excited to see that moving forward. Update on our ILA between DCTA and DART for the A train. Data reporting support with AECOM. We've also got a task order update from AECOM on the phase 2 stakeholder engagement and update on the trolley relocation. Any of those you want to speak to?
The antique trolley will be relocated in very short order. Appreciate Mr. Gonzalez and the Denton County team that's going to take that historic asset and turn it into something great. A great partnership. I appreciate the support.
I think that'll be fun. Board, anything that you'd like for future agendas? Board member requests? All right, we don't have any closed session?
No, sir.
So based on this, we had no further action to be taken at today's agenda, so we stand adjourned.
This book is ours to.
That book is yours to take.
Becky.